That's it. That's it. You know what? I'm sick of this. So, Bat Family, what is this that we're hearing about Dick Grayson's Robin being involved in Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2, as well as some other rumors that once again regurgitate Clayface, The Batman Part 2 delayed filming. We're going to go over this. We're going to go over this in this video. I've seen a lot of you ask me, what are my thoughts about this? Is this actually happening? Is it confirmed? So what I'm going to do is initially do something that I just don't really see a lot of people do when it comes to stuff like this. A bit of a breakdown of the reliability of where this rumor is coming from and just why so many people are talking about it. And also, of course, regardless of the rumor validity, we will of course just entertain the rumor to the extent of it hypothetically being true, because why not? How would I feel about that? How do I think that could go down in Matt Reeves' Part 2 if Dick Grayson was to be involved? So go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. I really hope that you do, and of course consider subscribing for any kind of news updates on Matt Reeves' Batverse. So one thing I want to say, and this will be a little bit of a kind of boba, not necessarily rant, but kind of just getting my comprehensive thoughts about rumors out there in quite a candid way. Let me put it that way. When it comes to scoopers, everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Not just a grain of salt, but a huge one. So with that being said, who is the source of this rumor? So this comes from My Time to Shine Hello on Twitter. And they said, as you can see in the screenshots here, I know Robin is in it, Dick Grayson. Sources confirmed that Dick Grayson will be 13 years old in The Batman Part 2. Also, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of things to do with Clayface and the release date, or not release date rather, but the shooting date that we'll get into in just a few minutes time. Now, I've tried to do some digging here, and as usual, the reliability is somewhat questionable when it comes to this scooper, this insider, if you will. People tell me, oh, but they've got this right, and maybe that right, but then they kind of got this wrong, but they also technically got this right, but then there was that thing that they got wrong and just said later on that it was true, but it conveniently got removed from an earlier version of the script. But with that being said, I do want to say and be fair here that I do like to think in good faith that whenever a scooper or insider hears about something, that they themselves believe that their source is telling the truth, and thus they put it out there, when in all reality their source could be full of BS. But back to it. So yeah, when I tried looking into it, apparently they've got a few MCU things right in the past, but then some things outright wrong. So most recently even saying that the Fantastic Four castings would be Adam Driver as Reed Richards, which is wrong. And I think they also mentioned Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, and some of you may remember those names floating around, as it made quite a bit of news on the internet, and it came from this insider, this scooper, if you will. And that's the thing, right? When it comes to scoopers, for me, even though they can get some things right, they don't always, and quite often miss way more than they hit. So I think what always baffles me when I come to something like this is that when scoopers might tweet things like this out, you have many followers, fans, whatever you want to call them, in the replies being there like, oh, we won, or this is going to be amazing, or like, I can't believe this is happening, as if basically believing that it's been confirmed. And to stress, so that this doesn't get misconstrued here, I'm not saying that you can't talk about it or have fun with the discussion, because I mean, that's what we're doing here, and that's what we're going to go on to do in just a couple of minutes with some speculation. But to take an insider's scoop and talk in accordance as though it has been confirmed by a studio, and then to recite it to others as though it's been confirmed, when in all reality it hasn't, I don't get that. And as a result of that, the information gets recycled and then recycled again, and then by the time the chain reaction hits the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th person, it's even more to the point of people believing this claim is confirmed news. And then, as this Boba Rant continues, it doesn't help that you get channels like this, in where they've literally stated in the video, in addition to the title, and I quote, it was announced recently that Matt Reeves would be introducing Robin in the Batman 2. It was announced recently. And This is coming from this scooper, this insider. How? What? No, it hasn't. How's it been announced? That's it. That's it. You know what? I'm sick of this. I'm gonna start the scooper vigilante squad in a second. And not only that, the people who regurgitate this out there as it's been announced. Again, this isn't me saying that it isn't going to happen, that Dick Grayson isn't going to be in the Batman trilogy. He could be. But what I am talking about strictly is in terms of what's out there. Has it been announced? No, it hasn't been announced. So we need to stop acting like it's been announced. And I just realized I can't take myself seriously. And I'm sure you can't either with wearing this bat mask in this video. So recently, in combination to this Dick Grayson scoop being in the Batman 2, they put out some already unverified info that we've already known from months and months and months and months back, as if it was a new scoop. So, for example, they tweeted out the Batman filming March 2024 and Clayface to be involved just the other day. As if I don't understand. We've had teases as far back as almost a year and a half ago now. I've looked into it again just because I've spoken about this, and I was like, when was that? It was a long time ago, a year and a half ago, with other reports reiterating this story more and more as time went on. Again, it's not confirmed news, but I'm just saying that the unverified rumor, the previous scoops of Clayface have been around for a very long time. And as for the Batman being pushed back to March 2024 for filming, again, this is actual. So this time, this is actual information we've had from Production Weekly as far back as the end of May this year. So that's what you're working with, guys. I wanted to kind of dump a lot of thoughts out there just to make it really incredibly clear to my audience the way I think people should look at something like this, rumors like this. Please look at it as comprehensively as you can. Anytime anyone puts something out there as an unconfirmed rumor, take it with a huge grain of salt. No matter what form the scooper comes in, like whether it's a Twitter profile, a Reddit user, even a YouTuber claiming they've got a scoop. With all of that out the way, let's now entertain the idea of Robin and Clayface in the Batman trilogy. So first off, and some of you may be familiar with some of my thoughts because we've actually been speaking about this and speculating about the possibility of Robin and Clayface in the Batman trilogy in my Batman discussion series for a long time. So let me kind of bullet point this off by first saying, do I think this could happen and do I want it to happen? So let me put it this way. If Matt Reeves was actually doing this and this was actually happening, this wasn't a rumor and we knew it for sure, I would be so for it. I've said this before, and you guys know me. I'm a big Batman fan. I'm a big Bat Family fan. I'm really excited for the Bat Family to come to the DCU. So, you know, that would be a fantastical lens. But with Matt Reeves's vision, to imagine Robert Pattinson's Batman, regardless, like let's just say this was happening with a Robin, that would be so cool. But most importantly to me, the main thing is that with the trust and simp energy that I have for Matt Reeves, the fact that he would have decided to tackle this means that he would have full conviction in it, and thus I would have full faith in whatever way he would choose to execute it. And I would be so fascinated to see Robert Pattinson's Batman take on a Robin. Now, the whole age thing would obviously be up in the air, and how would they tackle that in this lens? Because I can rant about this for ages. You know, with this world, a less fantastical world, it comes across maybe a little bit more psychologically disturbing to literally maybe get a child. Again, this is assuming you go with the child route, because you did have My Time to Shine, hello, say 13 years old. And it would be, I think, seen more weaponizing a kid in Reeves' version versus that of a fantastical version where you have metahumans, blob monster, clay monsters out there, and a little ninja assassin, you know, kind of kick-ass hit girl style. With that kind of tone to DCU movies and cinematic universes where you have, you know, no bounds with fantastical things, like in the DCEU you had Ben Affleck's Batman riding on the bloody back of a parademon over Gotham City. You don't really apply the whole critique or grounded aspects or thoughts to it, just like how you didn't with Kick-Ass and Hit Girl literally being a kid going out there doing the things that she did in Kick-Ass. Do you know what I mean? But with Reeves' lens, yeah, that would be certainly a very, I just can imagine Alfred screaming at him, saying, "What are you doing?" Don't get me wrong, I do want to put it out there. Can I visualize Robert Pattinson in the Batman armor with Dick Grayson standing beside him? Of course I can. That would look sick. It would. But I'm talking, okay, let's peel back that layer and truly see how you execute it in the Reeves tone, in the Reeves lens, or while I'm a bit more unsure about is this really happening? Because as it's not remotely confirmed, do I think it's happening? Let's address that. I'm really not sure. But if Matt Reeves, and it came out that he was doing it, I would actually be so much more obsessively compelled and engrossed in it, because I think for the mere reason of, oh my God, Matt Reeves is doing a Robin in his vision and his lens and his tone of the Batman in his trilogy. Wow. It would kind of low-key shock me. But I want to maintain, I've never strictly ruled it out, because I've said many, many, many times before as well, that if, hypothetically, let's entertain, if Matt Reeves did do Robin, I've said quite a few times in how I wouldn't really expect him to go full swing in the Batman 2. This has always just been my theory, in how if you were to do Robin in the trilogy, primarily highlight the Robin vigilante mode in the third movie, but introduce him in the second movie, maybe you can have a scene towards the very ending. So let's just say the second movie highlights a lot more of Bruce Wayne, the duality between that of Bruce Wayne and Batman, the kind of somewhat organic growth we expect thematically in the second movie. And, again, I'm not saying this is the way it would go down. This is just a theory. You can expand on it. At the end of the second movie, after all the events are said and done, you have Batman and Alfred or whoever, Selina, I don't know, not Batman, but like Bruce Wayne, attend the Flying Graysons, and he quite literally witnesses Dick Grayson's parents die at the Flying Graysons. And, after almost like poetically a parallel to the scene of seeing the mayor's child sit there alone on a crime scene of his father's death, and Batman's just staring at him. And, as I've said before, if you look closely, a lot of people don't really notice this detail, but Batman's eyes there, Pattinson's eyes, are welling up with tears. It's so subtle, but so well done. This time, if he saw that again in the flesh, he'd be like, right, no, I'm adopting that kid. And so, yeah, so end of the second movie, he goes to the Flying Graysons. You could even put it down to, he's kind of reluctantly going there with Bella Real or something like that, because, again, the effort of being a bit more philanthropic as Bruce Wayne and maybe making an appearance or something is something he's committing to. A nice way to kind of end off the movie, right? But then you have the Flying Graysons event happen, and it just cuts to black after Bruce, it pans to the kid, but then it cuts to Bruce's face. And every fan knows what that means. So then in the Batman Part 3, you have more of the Batman and Robin type movie, if you will. That's a way I felt that it would be good to organically do it, because I have seen a lot of people say that it is too early to do Robin in the second movie. I get what people are saying there. I'm kind of half with those people and half not, because I like to try and play both sides here. Technically, Batman, traditionally in canon, adopts Dick Grayson and takes him on as Robin during Batman Year 3. So in the Batman movie, the first one, Batman is in Year 2. He's 1 year, 6 months into the Gotham Project, basically the Batman Project, right? So in the second movie, I don't know, he might be on the precipice of Year 3. And I only say that because I don't think there's going to be a monumental time jump between the Batman Part 1 and Part 2. We know the Penguin series bridges the gap between Part 1 and Part 2. I also believe that the psychological roadmap that Matt Reeves wants to establish with the character arc of Bruce Wayne will mean a fairly condensed story, at least in the first two movies. I'm not discounting a slightly larger time jump between Part 2 and Part 3, but especially Part 2, I think after the Penguin, after he becomes Kingpin, you might have max of a few months go by, but not years. So technically, by the time the Batman Part 2 picks up, after the flooding, which is already going down in Gotham by the time of the Penguin series, it's not something that lasts forever. It can kind of dissipate quite quickly. Rebuilding does happen, I think, a lot quicker than some people expect. So without rambling too much longer than that, technically in the Batman Part 2, if a few months go by, he's already 1 year, 6 months in the Batman Part 1, technically during the second movie he could be in Year 3 by being 2 years, 1 day in or something like that. So technically, yes, I do think it could be a bit early to 20 minutes in or 35 minutes in, oh, Robin's here, and hey, Dick Grayson, I'm going to adopt you. Hey, you want to go down to the Batcave and we'll start training? No, like, organically, if Reeves was to tackle that, you would weave the character of Dick Grayson in. You would tease the posters of the Flying Graysons throughout the movie, but you would still not be too distracted by that, but you would have the whole plot of, let's just say, Hush or Clayface or Mr. Freeze, whoever you bloody want, be tackled. The Bruce Wayne coming out a bit more, being tackled in the movie. You maybe get some more Easter eggs sprinkled throughout there of the circus coming to town, maybe on the news, but again, that scene, the pivotal one that sets up what we all would be really looking forward to in the third movie would happen at the end. And again, I think naturally that would be the Flying Graysons. That would be a great way to tee up part 3. I really do believe that. But to just inject Robin in the second movie's plot, all while you could probably argue a synopsis for me there, I think that they won't distract from everything else they want to establish. And you can attach Robin at the end in the ways I've said to make that a main feature in part 3, and to once again back up what I've said before in how Robin in the Matt Reeves trilogy can very much so be a part of the psychological roadmap Reeves has spoken about. Because if you're a Batman fan, you should be fully aware that Bruce Wayne is not a perfect guy, and he's gone through many psychological developments, and that's what's so cool about this trilogy. It's very much so focusing on the development of Bruce Wayne as a character, Batman, starting off as obsessive with Batman. So many people miss the point of that, like, oh, I want more Bruce Wayne. You don't get that this trilogy is a story arc. He already came out at the end of the first movie realizing that he needed to change a bit, but Bruce Wayne adopting Dick Grayson, that kid teaches him so much. It gets him over the next mountain of Bruce Wayne Batman development. So I think that happening at the end of the second movie, but the main mountain being crossed in the third movie, that character featuring mainly in the third movie, that would be the place for that. But as I always say as well, guys, adaptations aren't always copy and paste. So Matt Reeves could stylistically and vision-wise just not want a Robin in this trilogy. And as he said as well, he always wants to find the grounded version of everything, but he wants that one fantastical element. Now, this is where people like to argue against me, and that's not me saying it as a bad thing, like it's a healthy debate, healthy argument, if you will, in terms of where they say, well, you know, Batman, a guy's running around as a bat, like, that's already fantastical. That's the point. Matt Reeves says he wants to take one fantastical aspect and make everything very emotionally real, very real around that. So Batman is the one fantastical element in the trilogy. So technically, you could argue there that Matt Reeves could extend that to Robin, because all while, as I've said with the quote here, everything in the Batman world is very grounded. He unwinds the fantastical. This is why I don't think there'll be Clayface, blob monsters, and metahumans, poison ivy flying around with plants carrying around the city, although I do think you can adapt these characters in maybe, like, for example, the Golden Age Clayface, and Ivy could be done in a slightly different way, etc., etc. But you can maintain the two fantastical aspects of Batman and extend that to Robin. A bit of the quote goes as follows. This idea of taking the one fantastical element, and I see that as Batman, like the fact that there's a Batman, right? The fantastical element, but he continues, and then have everything around it. So it will be as grounded as possible so that it could feel, I want it to feel emotionally real and make everything feel believable. In this movie, even further, I think, than what I did in those films, and he's referring to the 8 films there, I tried to find the practical, believable version. So, yeah, that's what I extend to metahumans, but the one fantastical being Batman and Robin, maybe. He's already done it with Batman, so maybe. But it is a bit harder when you do take into account what Batman training a child to be a vigilante really means. So that is what you really need to challenge your own view with. If you're like, yeah, Matt Reeves can do Robin, like, try and I challenge you to challenge your own view there with, would he really do that? Because you can have the one fantastical element being Batman in this world, but then extending it onto a 10-year-old, a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, or 13, as the scooper says, it is a bit, in a world where he says he wants to ground everything, find the believable version of everything as grounded as possible so that it can feel real and practical and a believable version, as he puts it. I do think it would be seen more as weaponizing a child, but maybe that could be something, and this is what I want to stress, maybe that can be something that is arguably very interesting, because it would kind of do an approach that is a relevant take on Batman. Now, you could say to me, but that's not what Batman does in the comics. He doesn't look at it that way. He's trying to help the kid. He's trying to train and, you know, turn his anger into a tool. And, you know, I get what you're saying, but imagine somebody looking at it from the outside. without, and this is what I kind of brought up earlier, without the lens of a fantastical universe and the comic book world and what that looks like in real life. You know, taking a kid out there with Kevlar weaved armor, taking bullets and knife stabs at 13, 12 years old. That's what I struggle with Matt Reeves' world. Even though, yes, this is fantastical to an extent because there is a Batman. But that's the one fantastical element. DCU can get away with that because you already have aliens out there. You have Kick-Ass with Hit Girl because you understand what you've signed up to with that movie. Now, Reeves' world, again, there's one fantastical element, but everything else that is constructed around it will be pursued with a grounded and believable version. Now, one way, after all that rambling, that could still be achieved. Unfortunately, this is what I think a lot of people don't like to hear me say. A grounded, believable version, as Matt Reeves says, to do Robin would be to maybe do a slightly older character. Now, I'm not talking Joseph Gordon-Levitt levels of age, you know, in Nolan's universe, but somewhere where it's like, okay, maybe this is questionable, but if he's like 18, 19... you know, maybe that could work, or 16 and above. But taking a literal 10-year-old. But in the DCU, by the way, Damian Wayne, this is what I'm really trying to, like, lay on thick right now. There's a huge difference with that, because I use the Hit Girl Kick-Ass analogy. That is embracing wacky, fantastical, comic book, you know, believability and everything. But Matt Reeves, I don't know. I really don't know. Some of you may completely disagree with me. I hope some of you can understand where I'm coming from there. But I'm not discounting that you can't do a slightly older actor who still is very young, not even 20 years old, and it's still very interesting and could be a cool kind of psychological undertone to the movie of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne being like 30, early 30s or so, training like an 18-year-old. That's still like, oh, damn. Okay, that's interesting. But to reduce that age to like 13 or 12 or 11 or 10, okay, no, that's something the fantastical DCU will embrace. But I don't know about Matt Reeves. But if I'm wrong, by the way, I need to make this clear. If I'm wrong about that, because even though I'm not saying that Reeves wouldn't do a Robin, I just think he would do it in a certain way. But if I am wrong about the age thing, and Matt Reeves was like, yeah, we're doing a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, then again, I divert to what I said earlier. I would be more obsessively compelled and engrossed to be like, oh my God, I'm actually so excited to see how Matt Reeves pulls this one off, because I have so much faith in the guy, and that is so against what I kind of, my gut instinct and intuition tells me of what way he would execute it, that it would subvert my expectations almost, that I'd be like, my God, I need to see what the heck you're gonna do with this. Now, to cover all of the bases here, some people are bringing up the whole meeting with James Gunn and Matt Reeves. There's kind of a for and against here as well. Now, some of you may have forgotten, we had in January, I believe it was, Matt Reeves met with James Gunn to kind of talk all things out with what they plan to do in each respective universes. Obviously, both universes, the Batman and the DC will be handling Batman. And as Matt Reeves said here, and I've got the quote up if I can find it, I had this dream for the way I wanted that to play out, and that's part of what I'm going to be talking to them about in a few weeks. They're going to be talking to me about what they're doing in their 10-year plan, or certainly what's in the near future as well, so that we can understand that it's air traffic control. We don't want to be crashing into each other. We want to support each other. So clearly, just in case, for example, the main villain of, you know, this isn't me saying it's going to happen, it's just a very obvious example. Let's say the Batman Part 2, or like, let's just say Part 3, by the time Brave and the Bold comes out or whatever, is doing Mr. Freeze, and then Brave and the Bold was doing Mr. Freeze with Damian Wayne. You wouldn't want to, you know, it'd be a bit counterproductive in a sense, even though you can argue you can do two different takes. So you can apply that to Robin, and that's what people are doing. Now, I still think it can be argued that Reeves could still get away with doing Dick Grayson, and that wouldn't be restricted to him, because James Gunn is like, well, in the DCU Brave and the Bold, we've got a whole Bat family. We've got Damian Wayne. You know, Jason died, but we've got Tim Drake maybe. We've got a Barbara. We've got a Dick Grayson. But the thing is, if Damian Wayne is in Brave and the Bold, I expect by that point, that Batman, Dick Grayson will likely already be Nightwing. So if in the Batman, given that Batman is only in the foundation years of his vigilante career, and it would be the origin of Dick Grayson, those would be two very different things that I don't think would be, you know, the whole air traffic control crashing into each other counterproductive portrayals on live action screen, like doing the same thing at the same time. I think, and I don't know if you agree with me there, Nightwing in Brave and the Bold isn't the same thing as doing the foundation of Batman adopting his first Robin, even though it's the same character, Dick Grayson. They're like at complete opposite ends of the spectrum of their journeys, that I think Matt Reeves in the Elseworld can do Dick Grayson Robin if he wanted to. I don't think he would have that restriction, just quite simply because Brave and the Bold would have Nightwing. And sure, you could argue maybe he's not Nightwing yet, but he's on the precipice. Like I'm telling you, if Damian Wayne is coming in, Batman, if he started at 25 years old, would be heavily into his career at that point. Mid-30s, possibly Batman year 10, 11, 12. He would have gone, they said he's got a Bat family. That's multiple Bat family members. Or like you could argue, and this is what I said at the time, they could have spoken about Robin, and Matt Reeves could have been like, oh, don't worry, I'm not interested in pursuing Robin in all 3 of my movies anyway. It could have been that. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Now, as for the Clayface thing, what can I say more than what I've said before? It is, as per what I've said in this video, right now just a rumor. This one, as I have said also in this video, has had a lot more mentions, even to the point of where Deadline was saying Mike Flanagan could be doing a Clayface project, but then that wouldn't really be a Batman character in the Batman Part 2 because Reeves is directing that. That seems like it would be a separate thing. They even said in that article they don't even know if it'd be a DCU thing or a spin-off thing in Reeves's world or the Batman Part 2, but as I said, I don't really get that latter part. We don't know, but with regards to Clayface, My Time to Shine Hello, the Scooper, has also said that this doesn't mean he's necessarily the main villain, just that he's involved. And that's been something that goes back to a year and a half ago, as I said, with how Clayface was speculated about to be in the Penguin series or something like that. Not necessarily the main villain, but just maybe involved in some way, shape, or form. Maybe Clayface is maybe a Golden Age-esque version. I know plenty of you out there want the Blob Monster, but I'm still pretty damn adamant that I can't really see that being adapted, but I wouldn't rule out a stretch of the imagination, such as such convincing makeup to the point of where they actually cast an actor, or they have, let's just say, Robert Pattinson play Clayface playing Bruce Wayne. Something like crazy like that, like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible style mask, but, Mike Marino's makeup, and they could incorporate that into the character being an actor, expert prosthetics artist, and everything like that. That would be super cool. So you never know. You never know with Clayface. I lean more into the believability of that than I do Robin as it currently stands. But that is enough from me in this video, guys. I would just love to know what you think about all of this rumor stuff. What do you think about what I said in the first part of the video? But also, do you believe it? Do you think, is there something telling you that there will be a Robin, that there will be a Clayface? Which one do you believe more? And also just let me know, again, hypothetically entertaining, if it was true, what you would think of if it actually was happening. How would you feel? How would you like these characters to be done? Other than that, though, guys, I would really appreciate a like on this video. If you got this far, do me a favor and hit that like button. But until next time, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat family, in the next video. Goodbye.